house needs painting, the grass needs mowing. Where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mossy Oak and Liqua Moly.
Welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. I'm your co-host, Sarah Beth, and you are...
Hello, Sarah Beth. I'm Hank Parker, and
Off
we're
the
off the water today. We were on the water yesterday, but we're off the water today. It's been a beautiful day in South Carolina to have been on the water. We have had some very, very cold days, and so starting to warm up. We've had quite a few warm days in a row.
It's been wonderful.
Fish are getting excited.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I get excited when the fish get excited.
I'm excited that it's not cold.
All right.
It's crazy.
All right, we're going to talk about today the pie in the face. Tell everybody about how do you get a pie in your face?
You get a pie in your face by losing the Mercury challenge to Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston.
That is going to be a hard thing for me to take. Hey, all my fan base did a fantastic job. I jumped out in the lead, and I had a really good lead. And then Dance threw the afterburners on, and he has really put it on me. So He's got a pretty big lead. He's got about as big a lead as I had. So if he overtook me, I think we could probably overtake him. What do you think?
I think we can do it, you guys. It's completely free to register. Even if you don't have a boat, you can still register anyways and still vote for Hank. If you know somebody who has a boat, you can still win a Mercury outboard regardless. All it takes is for you to click the link that we provide in the description of this video, and then you just type in your information, and it automatically goes towards Hank Parker.
Man, that is a big deal. I need your vote. Please vote for me. I feel like I'm back in the school days when you run for school president.
Yeah.
Vote for me. Vote for me.
Yes.
So I'm unqualified to be any kind of a politician and don't have any desire to be a politician. I'm grateful for those that are good and honest that do have a desire, but just vote for me to not get a pie in my face.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said,
and they can win a Mercury outboard.
They can.
Up to 300 horsepower. That's a big deal.
Oh, yes. You're totally right. Up to 300 horsepower.
Yeah.
You know, I just saw a post the other day. They're looking for somebody on one of the lakes in South Carolina had a 200 horsepower motor on a 14-foot long boat. Took off.
It's very important that you follow the Coast Guard regulations on powering your boat. I've got a big bay boat that I wish I had a little bigger engine, but it is maxed out with what the Coast Guard says is legal, so that's the way I leave it.
There you go. Well, with that being said, you said you were on the water yesterday.
That's right, yeah. Now I don't want to get into the controversial side, and I did my podcast a couple of weeks ago and talked about the beginning of Sonar, the beginning of depth finders, the beginning of a new era. And that started around 1968. So things have progressed, and we talked about all the different units and how it changed and the game changers. And now then we ended up with the latest technology, which is forward-facing sonar. And I've made no secret about it. I really enjoy fishing with it. And I've made no secret about it that I stink. I am not good at all. And part of it is my outlook and my mentality and my understanding of fish in a traditional method. You kind of have to break away and be very open-minded and start kind of getting out of your lane a little bit and getting uncomfortable with doing things that are kind of off the wall, looking for fish in places that is somewhat off the wall. And it's not natural. I've spent all my life relating to structures, relating to creek channels, relating to where fish tend to migrate down grass lines and that sort of thing. Now just to go out into 100 foot of water and start scanning is completely unnatural for me. And so I struggle. I struggle with being successful. I struggle with catching the big bags of fish that other people catch on my home lake. And so yesterday, I fished with an awesome, I call him a kid, young gentleman, Brett Myers Jr. Now, Brett Myers has been around for a long time and done an awesome job on the national tournament circuit. He's fished FLW. I've seen him at a lot of events. He's fished bass. He's done a lot of tournaments nationwide. Now, Brett Myers Jr. is doing that now, but Brett Myers Jr. has won quite a few tournaments on my home lake.
Wow.
With some big stringers.
Yeah.
That I've never caught.
Oh, you think that's because
I think there's a lot going on that I didn't realize, and that, again, thinking out of the box, that I'm starting to realize. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit, and then we're going to talk about fishing line.
All right.
So we got a lot to talk about. Let me tell you, first of all, Brett Myers Jr. is a whiz. He is an awesome fisherman. Without forward sonar, whether it's throwing a frog, whether it's throwing a crankbait, whether it's fishing out deep or shallow or in between. Right. This kid is a superstar and got a great attitude. I really enjoyed my day with him yesterday. And Brett has caught several stringers of bass in tournaments on the lake we fished yesterday in the mid-20s.
Wow.
Yesterday, he caught the biggest string of fish he's ever caught on this lake. He had a solid 32 pounds and probably had 33 and a half pounds. We didn't weigh all the fish. We weighed a few of them. But he had 3 fish that's no doubt in my mind that we'll say 7 pounds. He had one that's 7 1/4. He had one that was right at 7, and another one that may have been an ounce or 2 short. But if you borrow from that 7 1/4, you got 3 7-pounders.
Yeah.
Then he had one that was a healthy 6 and some change. Then he had a mean mouth, a half smallmouth, half spotted bass that weighed 5.5 pounds.
That was a beautiful fish.
You
sent me those videos,
fish.
which, by the way, if y'all want to go see these fish that he's talking about, it's on his Instagram and his Facebook at Hank.Parker on Instagram, Hank Parker on Facebook, just in case you're interested to go see those fish.
I posted them. We just posted them last night, just caught them yesterday. So a couple of things that helped me. One is he explained to me more clearly than anybody has that I fished with forward-facing sonar. He explained, and I'm going to tell you, it's very complex. It is not. It's not like playing a video game. You got to be a fisherman, and you got to figure things out. Now, it's different. I'm going to tell you it's different. It's not a traditional method of getting fish to react out of impulse out of a tree, but it is the same principle, getting fish to react, and you got to trigger them somehow, and you can watch them. Now, my big problem has been my hummingbird has not been where it is right now. The new Mega Live 2 is giving you more and more information. I did not realize these fish have changed and got harder to catch. I didn't realize how much more difficult fish are to catch today than they were when I started. When I first got my Mega Live, I caught them the very first day I used it. I caught them pretty good. Not knowing anything, I caught them pretty good, and I could see my bait out there at 20 and 25 feet. Well, as time has progressed and these fish have gotten pinged and gotten caught and been heavily molested, they're not nearly as susceptible and as easy as they were at one time.
Yeah.
So now you got to really work to catch them, and you need to see them at least 50 feet away from the boat.
Right.
I've never been able to do that. And I tried. I watched Scott Martin, and I love Jacob Wheeler, who is just an awesome fisherman. And I listened to these guys, and they told me about bait pop, fish formula. Now, David Bashir is a great friend of mine, and he's the founder of Fish Formula, and it's back on the market. And they were telling me about this bait pop. Man, I use bait pop, and I'm going to just be as honest as I know how. I wanted it to work bad, and I just could not get it to work. And I called David. I found his number and called him. Hadn't talked to him in several years. Loved the guy to death. And I told David, I said, David, I want it to work so bad, and I'll help you, and I'll help you promote it. But, man, I can't get it to work. He said, well, I'm not, it's helping me. And I said, I just can't see any difference. But yesterday, for the first time, I have a second generation of bait pop. He called me and he said, hey, you're going to be excited. I think you're going to see something that really works for you. So yesterday I used a brand new bait pop and I could see my bait absolutely better. I could see my bait at 70 and 80 feet. I've not been able to do that. And so that's exciting.
That is exciting. And
it helped me a lot. Now, Brett, he wore me out, but I spent a lot of time watching him, listening to him, and how intense and how important it is to make a perfect cast, get the perfect drop speed, and finesse that bait, shake it, hold it over top of that fish and shake it. And boy, presentation is critical. And I watched him a long time, and I threw in a lot of fish early on, and I mean, I didn't even get them to even get interested. And a lot of that was my not understanding what I needed and not understanding how fish behave with this new technique. So Brett, he kind of showed me the ropes, and he caught them. I ended up catching the biggest fish of the day. I caught one between 7 and 8 pounds, which is really a cool fish. I'm going to say he weighed 8 pounds. We did not weigh him, but he had the frame and the body. If he was not 8 pounds, he didn't miss it but a few ounces. And I caught another one about 4.5, and I caught another one about 3.5, and I caught another one about 2. So I ended up catching 4 fish. Brett caught 11, but Brett's top 5 fish, he had 3 7-pounders, a healthy 6-pounder, and a 5.5.
Yeah, I think my world record is 1.3.
Well, he beat you.
I'd say he beat both of us.
Yeah, he beat both of us.
For sure.
Pretty bad.
Very bad.
But it was fun.
You got whooped.
And I learned. And boy, I tell you, line made a big difference.
Yeah.
So I was at Angler's Choice a couple of weeks ago at their open house up in Martinsville, Virginia. And I had a young man that I met in Farmville, Virginia, just a few months ago. Awesome guy. And he asked me, he said, can you explain the difference in all the lines? I know you work with Berkeley, and I know they have a lot of different lines. They have monofilament, they have braid, they have specialty lines, and they have a couple of different kinds of mono, a couple of different kinds of braid, a couple of different kinds of fluoro. Tell me when, why, and how to use all these different lines, and explain the difference between the lines and why you need all these different lines to be successful. And I said, that is a good topic, and I think we should probably do that. But I will tell you yesterday, line made a big difference. The pound test, the drift, the fall, the speed. I used the new forward, and it comes through my guide so good. And once I got the hang of what I needed to do, man, it made a difference. Yeah. The flexibility, the freedom, the fall, everything about that line, the small diameter, it's super strong. And got a very, very small diameter. So I could get away with using a lighter head because I was fishing smaller diameter line, and so I got a better fall rate. So it was interesting to say the very, very least. And figuring all that out is the difference between catching them and not catching them. And we'll move on and we'll talk about line and we'll get off of forward-facing sonar. But Brett told me, and I'm not talking about forward-facing sonar from a controversial standpoint. I'm talking about a technology that is helping people catch fish and making some people angry, but hey, you can't fight technology. I love John Deere tractors. I hate the new computerized systems, man. The old John Deere tractors that I have, man, anybody can fix them. They got alternators, and they got no computerized, you can trace it down if you got a fuel problem or whatever, just a fuel pump and the batteries. And man, you don't have all the stuff you have to plug in to get a diagnostic report on a computer to tell you which chip. Now, you can't go to sleep while I'm talking.
I'm not going to sleep. I'm just listening. I'm listening. I promise I'm listening.
Was she going to sleep or what?
I know, right? I was thinking about that Lamborghini tractor.
Well, I hate all that technology, but it's here to stay and you're not going to change it.
Right.
And I can't tell you probably how many automobile mechanics there are in this world that could take an old carburetor apart or any of the old technology before the computerized systems came through and fix your automobile, and they were awesome mechanics, and now they're out to lunch because everything is computerized. I hate it, but it's life, and it's not going to change. We're not going to go back. Mm-hmm. And so forward-facing sonar is here to stay. We're not going to regress. We're not going to withdraw it from the market, and we're not going to quit designing and engineering new technical advancements for everything that we have in our life.
Right.
And fishing's just one of them.
Right. Well, I mean, it circles back to a previous podcast that we did. If y'all want to go check it out, it's on our channel, where we were talking about everything comes full circle. There was controversy with the first, the side transducer, side imaging.
Oh, yeah, side imaging.
And all of that stuff. So, I mean, every new thing that comes out, there's always going to be controversy. It's just forward-facing sonar is just the new thing right now. Maybe 10 years from now, it's going to be something else, and a forward-facing sonar is going to be completely normal for people to have. It's going to repeat itself regardless.
Well, and and I know, not so much you. You're young. You're a female.
Yeah.
You don't fight change like old men. Old men don't like change. I don't like change.
Right.
I
think that's a control thing, personally.
I don't know if it's a control thing or you just find a comfort zone. Life is hard. And you fight and you get into a comfort zone and you get things figured out, and all of a sudden they shuffle the cards and you got to start a new hand.
I feel like we're starting a therapy session.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, that makes me feel like I'm intimidated by all the change. I just would soon everything stay the same, where I learned how to navigate through life with things the way they were, and now you throw some technology at me, and I got to learn.
Right.
And I am not the kind of guy that can just say, okay, this new technology, I'm against it. I'm not going to learn it. It's for young guys. It's not for me. No. If they can learn it, and if anybody can learn it, I can learn it. And I am not going to accept defeat, and I've always, my whole life, my philosophy as a competitor, I wanted to know everything I could learn, because 99 is not a good number if 100 is achievable. Mm-hmm. Don't leave anything laying on the table.
Yeah, that's a good motto.
Here comes this new technology, and I want to learn it.
Yeah.
But Brett was telling me about a tournament he fished last year, and the first day I think he caught 10 or 11 pounds. And he said, man, I saw the fish. I saw all the fish, and I could not get them to bite. I got the little ones to bite, but he said, I saw some honkers, and I could not get them to bite. Honker is a big old goose,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He said, I saw some big fish, and I couldn't get them to bite. And he said, I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and the next day, it's hard. When you got fish down in 20 foot of water and you're throwing a 3-inch minnow on an 1/8 ounce head, it takes forever for that bait to get there. And it takes a lot of patience. But he said they would not bite that heavier bait. I could not get the right drift speed and fall for them to bite. And he said, I realized that in the middle of the first day, but did not change. And shame on me, because when I got to the weigh-in, I was way down the line. And, of course, I made a huge comeback the next day by switching to that lighter bait and catching 20 pounds.
Right.
So it's amazing how little things make a big difference.
Wow.
It's amazing how fishing line can make a big, big difference.
Right.
And so when I was in Martinville, Virginia a couple of weeks ago at Angler's Choice Open House, I had a young man come up to me and he said, "Hey, have you ever done a podcast where you just talk about fishing line? I know you work with Berkeley Fishing Line, and I know they got a lot of different types of line, from monofilament to fluorocarbon to braid and all kind of specialty lines.
Right.
Can you walk me through what line do I need to fish a crankbait? What line do I need to fish a frog? What line do I need to flip with? What line do I need to throw an A-rig with? What line do I need to fish topwater? What line do I need to fish a drop shot on? On and on and on and on. Can you help me with that and kind of make it simple and put things in a category, but just don't tell me which line. Tell me why that line is what I need to use."
All righty then. Well, then let's start that conversation.
All right. So we got a lot to talk about, and it will make a big difference. When I started out fishing with DuPont DuPont Strand, because Bill Dance said that was the best line.
Yep.
So what Bill said, and Roland used Strand, and I thought, man, Strand must be something. So I used Strand. Well, I broke line. I had a lot of problems. And broken line just drive me out of my mind. When I switched, I fished a tournament at West Point, Georgia, and I broke off 4 or 5 giant fish the first day. I broke off 4 or 5 the second day. And I saw Jimmy Houston, and I was telling him, I said, man, I could win this tournament if I'd have just put the fish I've had on my hook in the boat. I keep breaking my line. He said, "Breaking your line? What are you fishing with?" I said, "I'm fishing with that new Strand." He said, "Man, get rid of that stuff. And here's a spool of Trilene XT. Changed my life. I didn't break a fish off that last day, and I caught the biggest string, one of the biggest strings of the tournament. And had I done that every day, Randy Fight, who won that tournament, caught them so good. I don't know if I'd have won it, but I would sure been in the top 3 had I not broken. So I switched to Trilene because I had a problem. Mm-hmm. And now there's so many brands of fishing line on the market. Not many people have problems. Mm-hmm. I mean, you might be using a brand that I feel like is inferior to Berkeley Trilene, but it's doing the job for you.
Right.
And you could be better, but you don't know that because you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're breaking line, you're going to start looking for a solution.
Yeah.
And that's what switched me to Trilene. Then when I got on Trilene, I went to Spirit Lake, Iowa, and I went to their lab. Man, I got plant tour after plant tour, and I got to talk to their scientists and their biochemists and all the people that are working, and they walked me through the lab, and man, they had every brand of line that was ever made by anybody. Mm-hmm. And they test and they see this property. And Tom Bedell was the guy that in his philosophy was also 99 is not a good number if 100 is achievable. Tom Bedell with Berkeley, he was all about having absolutely the best product that could be built. Mm-hmm. And he would not rest until he had absolutely the best line. And once he had the best line, he knew he had it, but he still wouldn't stop trying to improve, even though he was number 1. And that's the philosophy that these guys at Spirit Lake, Iowa have maintained. So I'm very biased. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. I'm very biased. I am sold on Berkeley Trilene line. I think they make the best line in the world. I've seen how they weave. I've seen how they extrude. I've seen how they mix chemicals. I've seen and been through. I've watched them test other brands. I've watched them test their own, and they have rigorous tests that if it passes, it's awesome stuff. I can just tell you.
That's awesome.
So, okay, now we're going to start out. My story is I switched to Berkeley Trilene because I had a problem with the brand of line that I was using. Mm. And I can say DuPont Strand because they're no longer in business. They no longer make line. So they can't be mad at me or throw rocks at me or do anything mean to me because they're not in business today. So Stren still exists, but it's not a DuPont product. So DuPont Stren was where I had the problem.
Right.
So let's get all that clear, and we're going down the line. So I changed to Trilene, and I learned that they had two lines. Stren only had one line.
Okay.
Trilene had XL.
Yeah, XL.
XL is extra limp.
Okay.
It was a monofilament, it was a tripolymer line. It was not, I learned later that Stren was nylon 6, which was what most fishing lines were made of, and they just extrude nylon 6. Trilene was much more complex than that from the very beginning. They had 3 different properties that they mixed and made, and it was a tripolymer that had a different characteristic, was much stronger, was much more consistent. And so when I switched to Trilene, it solved my problem.
Yeah.
All right. And then I learned, I'm fishing with Trilene. They had 3 lines at that time. They had a middle of the road line called TS. They had XL, TS, and XT.
Okay.
TS was kind of an in-between XL and XT.
Okay, now pause for a second. What conditions would you use? Okay, you're going to talk about the 3 of them. What conditions would you use each line in?
All right, let's just go bypass TS. They no longer make it. XL and XT. That were the 2 lines. And XL was a very limp line that allowed your little crankbaits to have a lot of freedom.
Okay.
XT was a line that was very durable, tough. It could take abrasion. If you wrap a fish up around a stump root or a cypress tree or a brush pile or a boat piling, XT was tough.
Okay.
It was abrasion resistant.
Okay.
Where XL was a much softer line that allowed those little crankbaits to have a lot more freedom, but it was not really a durable line for brush piles, pilings, stumps. So it was very simple for me. When I'm throwing a crankbait, when I'm throwing a little finesse bait, when I'm throwing a jerk bait, and when I really need that freedom, I really need, if I'm throwing a small bait, if I'm trying to entice fish, if I'm fishing a grub, if I'm doing some of those things, I definitely need XL.
Yeah.
If I'm fishing brush piles, if I'm flipping, if I'm running that big spinnerbait over by pilings and boat docks and cypress tree, I need XT.
You need that XT.
So it was a game changer at that time. I now have a line that allowed me to be more efficient with those small crankbaits than I'd ever been before when I just had the one line.
To truly customize your tools. This is basically what I'm hearing. And from the sounds of it, they were the only ones to really have multiple at that time?
As far as I know Shakespeare had a line. There were Williamson Bearcat. I'd fished it before. They had a flat line, which was uniquely different. There were other brands of line. There was some Andy made overseas. Maxima was a line that was also made overseas. Mm-hmm. There were other lines out there, but I don't know that anybody had, Andy may have had, but no one had the quality and the consistency of Berkeley Trilene and the XL and XT. And as a matter of fact, Tom Bedell, I went all over the country with a machine and I tested line. He offered anybody in 1980, 81, 82, 83, in that era, $1 million if they had a fishing line. They had a micrometer, you'd mic it diameter for diameter. If anybody had a fishing line stronger than Berkeley, he'd pay you $1 million.
Oh, wow. And
I had hundreds of challengers. I went all over the world doing boat shows. I even went to the Miami Boat Show. I went all over the country with that. He had a machine called an R1D1 machine, and it had a gauge on it that would show you how many pounds in a little motor, and you'd hook your line, and it have a little motor that would turn, and you watch that gauge go up, and it would show you exactly the breaking point on that gauge. It broke at 12 pounds, 15 pounds, 18, whatever it broke at, and you'd watch it build up. You know, you put 1 pound of pressure, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds, bam, it breaks.
Yeah.
And you could watch that, and we had all these different challengers. And nobody had a line stronger than Berkeley Troutman.
Wow. Well, you had to be pretty sure to offer somebody $1 million, hey, your product beats my product.
Tom Bedell was a gunslinger. I'm so fortunate in my lifetime that I got to start and work with Tom Mann, Forrest Wood, Tom Bedell. These guys own their own company, Bill Norman. They owned their company, and they cared. And Tom Bedell was a gunslinger, man.
Mm-hmm.
He just, if you made a claim, it better have validity, because he's going to challenge you. And all these people were talking about, well, we got a line stronger than Trilene. Okay,
so prove it.
Come on, bring it on. And nobody did. He did that for 3 or 4 years and never paid out a dime, and had hundreds of challengers.
Yeah, wow.
All right, so we got XL and XT. They still exist today. They're still a fantastic line. And let me tell you, it depends on what level of fisherman you are. Don't get so far into the technical points that it racks your brain or causes you grief trying to figure all this out. If you don't have anything but XL and XT, you can get the job done.
Yeah.
But there are other things out there that give you advantages for other methods and other techniques, and they are a big deal to those that are going to fish all these different lures and methods and techniques. So for a lot of people, you got to have all the opportunities with braid, with fluorocarbon, with monofilament. You need it all.
Okay.
But for some people, XL and XT will still do all they need to do.
Yeah. Well, then that goes to just test to say how timeless that they are. It's been around that long, still been a #1 favorite.
Berkeley Bedell, the founder of Berkeley Trilene, is a unique American story. He was a kid. He was tying flies. He went around and sold these flies. And they came out with catgut, which was a clear fishing line.
Okay.
It was catgut by name. It was not actually.
Had nothing to do. I was about to say that's a
it
very
was not from
unfortunate
your
name.
kitty cat. You're a cat person, and I immediately no. It was just by name. It was clear line, and he started selling leaders, and he would make these leaders and tie these flies, and he would sell them. Mm-hmm. And the leader material that he had became very, very popular. So he started progressed and started extruding, making his own line, and the rest keeps on going, with all the things that they've done and innovations that they've made. But that was the foundation in the early 50s when Tom Bedell's dad, Bert Bedell, got things started by making little leader line out of clear line, which was something new.
That's really cool.
And that's an American story.
So he started out as an innovator.
Yeah, very innovation, very, very innovative. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have XL and we have XT. What's next on the line? What did they come out with next?
Well, you should have a list, and you're going to ask me off of that list. We'll talk probably about maybe where are we at? Big game?
Yeah, big game. I thought you were just that good. I didn't know if you needed.
Well, I can, but I want you to ask me, and I don't want to leave anything out because we've got a lot of different lines, and they serve a lot of different purposes. Big game is a line that is a monofilament line like XL and XT. It's a tripolymer line as well. It has a little bit more stretch. It's a little bit more forgiving for catching a marlin or catching some big billfish, and it's very, very popular in saltwater. Okay. But it's also an incredible catfish line. Catfishermen love it, and it's got enough stretch to be forgiving. It's tough. It's like XT. It can take it, man. Sometimes I fish Santee with big game and wrap those catfish up down there around those roots in the bottom of those cypress trees, and it's tough, man. You wrestle them out of there. So there are a lot of people that fish for bass with big game. Yeah. There are a lot of people that fish with nothing but big game. Because it is a very great performance. It's castable, it's very manageable, and it works on spinning and casting as well. And it's tough, man. And it's probably the most affordable line
Which is kind of surprising, especially seeing as it can withstand so much pressure and so much weight, especially if you're talking about catching marlins. That's actually pretty surprising when it's on the cheaper end.
Yeah, I don't say it's cheap, but it's the most affordable line out there. Certainly not cheap as far as the way it's manufactured and packaged. It's just a less expensive.
Yeah, less expensive option out of their lines.
Yeah, and it's mostly people. Most people buy big game in bulk spools, and it's affordable, and it's a great performer. So.
All right. Well, then moving on from big game, what about Fluoroshield?
Fluoroshield is a line that I have personally not used very much. I've tried it. It's a great line. It's very, very smooth. It comes through the guides well. But for me, I haven't found a special purpose for Fluoroshield. I like it. It performs. But it has not changed anything for me. I can't say, well, it makes my crankbait work better. Well, I do better with top water.
Yeah.
I can't say that it changed anything for me. So if you like Fluoroshield, send me an email. Tell me why and what you do, why it's a special line for you. I like it. It's very castable. It holds a knot good. But I just don't see anything it has really benefited me like a tight wiggling crankbait or like a top water floating on the top for fishing a good top water bait like XT.
Yeah.
I've just not, so I don't use a lot of Fluoroshield.
Okay. All right. Well, then moving on to Trilene 100% fluorocarbon. I've heard you talk about this one a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
It changed everything for me. When I started using Trilene 100% fluorocarbon, the first line they came out with, and you don't ever want to say anything negative about somebody that you work with, and I've worked with Berkeley for 40 years, and I found it true with every brand. I remember the BASS tournament on Lake Norman when Jason Quinn had it in the bag if he would have got this 6-pound fish he had on a crankbait, and it broke his line. And Jason, in the interview, said, well, I was using fluorocarbon, and that's just something that happens.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
That's just something that happens. You have unexplained breaks. It didn't break at the knot. It wasn't because you didn't retie. It was nothing to do with you really at all. It just was the nature of fluorocarbon, and I ran into that.
Yeah.
When I used fluorocarbon, okay, I would have unexplained breaks.
No.
I mean, it wasn't something I did. I couldn't tell you why it broke. That drives me nuts. And for me, that is completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
I can't deal with it.
Under what conditions do you use a fluorocarbons? Like, under what fishing conditions?
Well, fluorocarbon line is a neutral buoyant line. It doesn't float. It doesn't really sink, but it gives you more direct line when you're fishing deep water. It gives you more direct line. And fluorocarbon came from bone fishermen and fishermen that fished in really, really clear water in the flats and the Keys and in the Bahamas, because it was so transparent. Fish didn't see it. It was the most invisible line, so they're using it for leaders.
Okay.
Well, then it got into the bass world, and it's still a lot of guys use a fluorocarbon leader because it's not quite as manageable as is fluorocarbon. I mean, it's not quite as manageable as is a braid or a monofilament. So people will use a braided line and they'll tie a fluorocarbon leader. Okay. That's kind of what was going on in saltwater. But I fish Trilene 100% fluorocarbon straight. I do use it as a leader some. And I'm going to tell you, all these knots drive me nuts. Getting older, you can't see, and trying to tie that KT knot. What's the name of that knot? KW, KT?
Yeah, like KT. I think it's KT. That rings more of a bell. I can't exactly remember right off the top of my head, but I remember getting a phone call. Sarah Beth, will you come down to my boat office and come help me tie this dang knot? I can't figure it out. We're sitting there. We've got 2 different YouTube videos pulled up, one on my phone, one on his phone. He's trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. And I mean, some of them, they are a pain in the butt. I mean, I'm 21 years old and my eyes are already going. So I'm like, I can hardly see it. I know he definitely can't see it. He's guessing where he's pulling, so.
It's been frustrating, man. And you get out there in the boat and you break your leader off and you need to retie it. I'm down for 45 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, I'm down for 45 minutes. I watch these guys that can tie it in 2 minutes. I want to shoot them. That ain't fair.
There ain't no way.
That's not right. But nevertheless,
That's funny.
I fish it on spinning reels. It is not as manageable as XL, but I can manage it and I love it. I get no unexplained breaks.
Okay, so you had the experience though.
Oh, yeah, with the brand before, they had a line, and I'm not allowed to say it, called Vanish, number one selling line for fluorocarbon in the whole world. But I had breaks with Vanish. I've never had that problem with Trilene 100% fluorocarbon.
Okay.
So I fish fluorocarbon when I'm fishing a drop shot. I fish fluorocarbon when I'm fishing a worm on the bottom. I fish fluorocarbon when I'm fishing crankbaits. I fish fluorocarbon when I'm fishing jerk baits. I fish fluorocarbon with pawpaw.
So everything.
No. I fish fluorocarbon a lot of times with a jig, but I don't throw spinnerbait on fluorocarbon. I don't fish top water on fluorocarbon.
Okay.
I want monofilament. I want my bait to float. I want my line to float when I'm fishing that top water bait. And when I'm fishing that spinnerbait, I want something that's tough and go through my guides smooth. Casting a fishing lure is like a pitcher that pitches baseball. You don't aim where you want that ball to go. You look at that catcher's mitt and you throw that ball where you want it to land. You don't aim it. When you're casting a bait, when you're Andy Morgan and you're skipping a bait, Andy Montgomery, and you're skipping a bait, or Andy Morgan, either one, they're both awesome at skipping. Both are incredible. You don't look and aim that. You look where you want it to land.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is when I throw my spinnerbait. I look where I want that bait to land. So I want a line that is smooth, comes through my guides well, and is consistent. And once I get used to that, then it just becomes repetition. Okay. I started shooting traditional archery a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I was getting discouraged, and I went to an archery shop where this guy's really into traditional archery. And I said, I just don't have that natural ability. He said, whoa, hold on. I've been watching your television show for years, and I'm amazed at where you put that spinnerbait. So don't tell me, because it's the same principle. It's the same principle. He helped me so much, and I've improved a great deal on my traditional archery. You don't aim your bait. It is repetition. And once you get dialed in with that longbow or dialed in casting that spinnerbait, it becomes an extension of your arm, and the consistency of your line is important. So I've been fishing XT for years and years and years.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's very castable. I like it. The only time I don't use XT is if I have sensation, Berkeley sensation. I love that line. It's just more castable.
Yeah.
It'll do just about everything. It's not quite as tough, but it's darn close. It's just more castable. And that's important when you're throwing that spinnerbait. And I mean, you're wanting to put that thing exactly where it needs to land.
Right. When you say something's more castable, are you saying it has more of a slack to it, kind of?
No, more
or is
smooth.
It bent? It's
more smooth.
It's a smooth. Okay.
Yeah, it comes off your reel more smooth. It goes through the guides of your rod more smooth.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that.
Well, I like that. Well, we clarified that right up there, baby sister.
Why you sure did.
Yes, we did. We got that going right there. What did John Wayne say? Baby sister? Was that what it was?
Baby sister. I have no idea.
Oh,
you caught me off guard with that one. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I think he said baby sister. I believe that's right.
All right. Well, moving on to.
Well, now wait a minute. Did we get fluorocarbon covered, and now we moved over to sensation? And I got out of line. I can see that got it written
sure
down.
Did. You thrown me off.
Yeah, I threw y'all out off the bus or under the bus, and so we'll go with sensation. is a super smooth line. It's a little more expensive than XT,
Yep.
but it'll do just the same thing. It's an awesome topwater. If I'm fishing a big topwater bait on schooling fish and I want to throw it 100 miles, I'll put it on Sensation.
Sensation. All right. Awesome. Well, then moving on from Sensation, we can move on to Fireline. Tell me about that, because I ain't never heard of it.
Fireline is a super line that was introduced before braid came along. About, I don't know, many years ago.
The Dark Ages.
Yeah, back in the dark ages. Oh, way back in the 90s, honey.
In the 1900s.
Oh,
the late
Lord.
1900s.
Way back in the 1900s, they came out with spider wire. And Fireline was before spider wire. Fireline was a specialty line that was strong. You could tow a vehicle with it. And it was great line to fish in lily pads and aquatic vegetation. Monofilament line, fluorocarbon line, when you cast a frog in the back of a lily pad and you hook a big bass, if you got a braided line or a fire line, it'll cut its way out.
Okay.
It'll cut those lily pads and come to you. If you wrap it up in monofilament, it will not cut the lily pads. You got to go get that fish or you'll lose the fish.
Ooh.
So it's so important for anybody, I think, if you're fishing aquatic vegetation, whether it be milfoil, hydrilla, eelgrass, reeds, lily pads, whatever, you really, duckweed can be tough. Hyacinths can be tough. Braided line will cut its way out and you can get that fish out without going to it. If you're using fluoro or mono, you're going to have to go get that fish. So it's really important that you use a braided line when you're fishing aquatic vegetation. Weeds. Grass.
Weeds of grass. All righty. Well, then that covers Fireline.
Uh-huh.
All right, we're moving on to X5.
X5. Normal braided line is a 4-weave process.
Okay.
So this is an extra weave. It gives that line a little bit more flexibility. It gives that line a little different feel. It makes that line a little more round.
Okay.
And it will hold its shape better because of that extra weave.
Okay.
And so it's a braided line that has an extra weave that makes it more round, more contour, hold its shape longer, and makes it more castable.
Okay.
I love it. And I use it a lot. I was one of those guys that really, really liked spider wire. And I used a lot of spider wire, especially when I was red fishing. I liked it. And boy, when X5 came along, it pretty much ended my spider wire. I was impressed with that extra weave. And who would have known that anything like that would make such a difference? But the guys, again, at Berkeley, they study that stuff, and it's a lot of trouble to put that extra weave, and it takes some innovation to have the equipment to make it happen. But the benefit is what they were after, and that goes back to that 99 if 100 is achievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's something they've got it down to a science for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, well, they came out with X5, and then the next one they came out with is X9. So
now, that is a 9-weave. Now, that really makes that line way more pliable, more flexible.
Okay.
And it is a super braided line. It is a high-performance braided line that has a lot of flexibility, probably more than any other braided line that there is. So I use some X9 when I really want to make a long cast in those lily pads or in that aquatic vegetation. I like that. Okay. And when I'm flipping and pitching, I want to be real accurate when I'm trying to pitch in little holes in that hydrilla. I use X9.
Okay, awesome. So it gives you a little bit more control, would you say?
A little bit more control.
Okay. All right, well, moving on to their latest release, The forward line, tell me about that.
Forward. Now that is a whole new ball game. And that's what I fished with yesterday when I was fishing with forward facing sonar. And so because the name is forward, everybody thinks that that's all that line is for. That line, a guy that fishes forward facing sonar, a lot of the experts, and I'm not one of those guys, but the experts, a lot of them, they don't even like to lift their eyes off the screen. They're looking at a fish, they don't want to lose that fish, and they don't even raise up. They want that baseball to land in that catcher's mitt without looking.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, it's
that makes more
really,
sense.
so they want to feel it. So that is the most castable line. It comes through your guides super, super, super smooth. And you can cast it about 20% further than anything I've ever cast before.
Wow.
It is remarkable. Everybody that I said, here, I've tested it. It's only been on the market now for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
When I tested it, I've had it for 6 months or so. And I'd have people in my boat. I say, here, cast this line. Tell me what you think. They say, oh, my goodness, what is that? I've been watching you cast, and I was wondering, how are you casting so much further than me? And I thought, man, you just had a special wrist. But now I see what you're doing. It's your line. I said, yeah, it is. And so everybody that I have allowed to cast my reels and my rods are so impressed with forward.
Yeah.
It's very flexible.
Yeah.
It's small diameter. I don't know what material it's made from.
Well, I don't think they're probably going to release that
Well,
information
that
anytime
may
soon.
be true. I don't know that you'll get all the ingredients, but it is a line that if you never fish forward facing sonar in your life, it is a braided line that is the most flexible and the most invisible and the smallest diameter for the strength the breaking strength that it has. It's an incredible line. So they make all of these different lines to give you opportunities to fit your need. When you have a specialized technique and you need to get that little drift just right on that minnow bait to get that fish to bite that you're looking at on forward facing sonar, or if you need to get that fishing that little grass line and you're fishing some kind of little jerk bait and you need to get that thing just perfect, that forward line is awesome.
Yeah.
So it is not just for forward facing sonar.
Okay, so it's just a good line in general, regardless of if you have the technology or not.
It is the best finesse line in the braided family that I've ever used. X9 is incredible, but forward is a different animal.
They stepped up their game for sure.
It is a different animal. It's going to change a lot of people from what they're fishing now. There are going to be a lot of people converting.
Now, I saw your video that you did for Ford, releasing that for Berkeley. You said it came in 3 different colors. So there was like one that was I think you said it was like a clear line, and another 2 different shades of green.
Called crystal, which is a bright white line.
Bright white. So now, what do the different colors mean?
The crystal, you can see it really well, and some people believe that is the best color line to use in really, 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 really clear water, like the Keys when you're bone fishing. And I can't argue that. I don't know that, so I'm not going to confirm it, but I'm certainly not going to deny it because I really don't know that.
Yeah.
And then they have a green that is a bright green, like a fluorescent color, that you can see it great. And a lot of people that tie leaders love that. I think so far I've been able to catch fish on forward with the green.
High vis?
No. It's just a camo green. I forget what they call it, but it's low vis green.
Low vis.
I think that's what you call it, low vis green. And I don't think fish see it. I don't think I need a leader. I don't have to get down in the boat and spend all that time tying a fluorocarbon leader to my braid. I just tie my bait direct to forward, and I get just as many bites as I did when I tied a leader to it. So it saved me. I mean, that's a big deal for me.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up all of our trilene lines. I hope that was informative to people, and I hope that answered his questions for sure about the different conditions, the different lines.
You try to always keep fishing simple. You don't want to make it so complex that people have to spend hours thinking about what kind of fishing line I need to use for this particular situation. But at the same time, you don't want to not offer this specialty line that can make a difference for some people.
Right.
So
for sure.
I say most people will be fine if they only have XL or XT.
Okay.
If you don't fish but 5 times a year, you're not going to
That's
want
all you need
to study. That's exactly right. You're not going to want to study and try to understand all this. Now, if you're a guy that fishes 100 days a year, then you want it all.
Sounds
because
familiar.
you want every technique, and you're going to fish in situations and fishing in tournaments. You're going to be competitive, and you need You don't want to leave nothing laying on the table.
Right. You want every advantage you can possibly have to win.
That's exactly right. Well said, young
There
Sarah.
we go. Well, I've learned a lot today. Who knew that lines can make such a difference in your fishing game? Stepping it up.
Well, we're going to talk about on our next podcast, probably next week, we're going to talk about the little subtle things that I've experienced in my lifetime that have made big differences.
Wow.
I did this little change and ended up winning the tournament. I fished with a guy and he outsmarted me, and he did this little change and he ended up winning the tournament. So I want to share some of those stories, and I want to kind of get people to think about little things make big differences.
Yes.
So when you add a couple of little things together, it ends up equating to a big deal.
A big change.
A big bag of bass.
Yeah, there you go. What did Britt call it the other day? I saw in the end of the video, he said, look at that fatty right there.
A fatty, man. He had a toad. I call him a toad.
Oh, man. Right.
It's all going to be good, and that's why we do these podcasts. Let me tell you, I love doing them. I enjoy trying to pull things that maybe I've forgotten out of my mind, and talking about the past and talking about the good things. I don't like controversy, and I don't like all these people mad at each other. I like to talk about having a good time and going fishing and doing the fun things.
There you go. Very well said.
All right, so we've talked about the Mercury deal. How about Huckleberry apparel?
Yes.
That's fixing to take place. Tell them what it is, Sarah Beth.
Huckleberry Apparel is they're an apparel company, and him and English. I'm gonna cut that part out.
No, don't take it out.
I'm gonna cut that part out.
Let me tell you what it is. All right, I got Sarah here. Huckleberry Apparel is a guy named Danny Bennett who is willing to give up 30%. No one else in this whole world that I talk to would give up this kind of money for these high school kids to do fundraisers to support what they've got going on, whether they need money for boat captains, whatever their financial needs are. These kids have all wanted sponsors. Well, they're not in a position to get sponsors. So I put together a project to try to find somebody that would help with a significant amount of money on a fundraising opportunity. I searched through the world, and I found one person, a guy named Danny Bennett, who owns Huckleberry Apparel. And he said, Hank, I'm all in. I want to help these kids, and yes, we'll give them 30%. So what it is, they have a whole catalog of all types of apparel.
Yep.
You can take it to your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your neighbor, whomever, and say, hey, wouldn't you like this hat? Would you like this hoodie? Would you like this vest? Would you like this? Would you like that? Whatever that is in that catalog.
Yeah.
When they make that sale, there'll be a number that goes back to their team, and they will get credited 30% of the profit.
Yeah, and which is awesome. I mean, chocolate bars aren't going to do it. They're not going to cut it. Let's just be honest.
And what she's talking about, a chocolate bar, the bands in the public schools, they are in the same situation as the fishing teams. They don't get state or federal funding, so they have to fund themselves. And they sell the world's famous chocolate bars, and they make a couple of bucks every candy bar they sell. And it's significant for them, but that's not enough money for these fishing teams who need to pay $100 to their boat captain for their gas in their boat and their car.
Absolutely, and that is not restricted to just high school teams. It's collegiate as well. And as you said in a previous podcast, even ice fishermen, whatever fishing team that you have, you would be eligible to use Huckleberry.
We had a guy from Wisconsin say, hey, we got ice fishing teams up here. Our high school with that. Yeah, man, bring it on. Junior high. This is to help young fishermen, whether junior high school, or college.
Yep.
It is to help you raise the funds you need to continue as a team sport and make it and not disband your fishing team. You're our future. We very much want you to prosper. And that is why this whole Huckleberry thing came about. I personally took it on my shoulders to go out in the world and try to find somebody that would partner up with me to make this happen. And I am so grateful for a very generous gentleman called Danny Bennett that jumped on board without any reservations. And Hank, the math doesn't look good. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be an endeavor, but I'm willing to take it. And if we can sign up 1,000 teams, we'll actually make $1 off of it. But if we don't, and we lose money, that's okay too. Yep. As long as we're helping these kids, I'm good.
Which is awesome.
He's all in.
That's awesome. And all of that information will also be in the description below. All of our links are down there. Huckleberry apparel, high school fishing forums down there. The Mercury giveaway challenge link is down there, as well as all of our social media.
Vote for me.
Vote Hank. Yeah. And with that being said, goodbye. I'll see you guys next week.
Hey, thanks for being with us today. We'll be back next week. God bless you. I'm Hank Parker.